I love to try new things when we're crafting, and today we're going to do a trash to treasure craft video showing how to make 3 trash items into 3 beautiful creations. Hello, my name is Katie from Lady Red Crafting, and we're going to start out with craft number 1. For this craft, we're going to use 4 canning lids, and these ones were already used for other canning items, so I just wanted to wash these really good. And then what I'll do here is I'm going to go ahead and spray paint the back side of these lids. So I painted these lids with gold metallic spray paint, and it took 2 coats of spray paint on the back side of these lids, and I did 2 coats on the front side as well. Once these were completely dry, I took my Waverly chalk paint in the color white, and I'm just going to paint the inside part of the lid. And for this I did do 2 coats of paint on the inside of the lids. I took this candlestick holder that I found at the Dollar Tree because it was the right size for the inside of the lid, and I used it as a way to trace on a napkin here a circle. And we're going to just cut a circle out of the napkin, and we're going to decoupage this onto the lid. And I found that it was easier to cut the circles out without having pulled the napkin apart. And then once the circle was cut out, I did separate out the top layer of the napkin, and I'm only going to use that layer on the lid here. Next, we went ahead and we put some Mod Podge down onto the lid, and I'm using a piece of clear plastic wrap, and I'm just tapping down the piece of napkin. And once that's completely dry, I'll take another coat of the Mod Podge, and we're just going to do a thin layer over the top of the napkin to seal everything in. While that's drying, I'm going to grab some ribbon, and we're just going to cut some 12-inch strips of ribbon, and we're going to use this to make a loop on the back side of the lids. And to make the loop, we're just going to go ahead and tie a knot at the bottom of the ribbon. And for this next step here, we're just going to hot glue the knot on the back side of this canning lid. And I'm just going to do that again here to show you. And I'm using my little tool that I have from the Dollar Tree. It's just a makeup applicator tool, and it works really good for hot glue. And I'm just using that to press down the hot glue so I don't burn my fingers when I'm doing this. Now I made 2 different bows out of 2 different types of ribbon, and I was trying to decide which one I liked better, and I went with the gold. I don't know why I liked that one better, but I don't know, they both look good, but I went with the gold because I thought that one looked a little nicer. So I go ahead and I attach that with some hot glue, and I clip that on just to make sure it gives it more time to adhere to the lid. And when we're all done, we have 3 beautiful ornaments. So I'd like to take a quick moment and thank these wonderful ladies that have a heart of gold. Rustic Lace and DIYs, 6 Kids and a Glue Gun, and Crafty Hints. Thank you for putting together this playlist. On to craft number 2. For this craft, we're going to use a pickle jar as our trash, and then we're going to convert that to a treasure. For this pickle jar, we're going to take the lid off, and we're going to paint the outside of the glass with white Waverly chalk paint. And while painting this, I did paint all the way up to the top of the rim, and I painted the bottom of my jar. And while I'm painting, I'd love to hear where you're watching from. Please leave a comment down below. I'm in Washington State. So after our jar has finished drying, we're going to go ahead and decoupage a napkin to it. And I'm using a nice lemon napkin, and this one I did get from Hobby Lobby. And I'm just going to use a piece of painter's tape to help get the top layer of the napkin off of the bottom layer of the napkin. And I'm using a egg carton to help me keep the jar sturdy. It's kind of like an extra hand, and it worked really well. So I was able to Mod Podge the top part of this jar on the sides, And I'm going to go ahead and cut my napkin in half to make it easier to work with. And we're just going to lay that napkin really gently on the jar, and we're just going to use our clear plastic wrap and tap that down and smooth everything out. Now, I did not put any paint on the bottom of the jar. I'm only painting the Mod Podge from the rim all the way down to the very, just where those little dots are in the bottom of the pickle jar. I'm not going to do any Mod Podge on the bottom. It's just going to be the white paint. After the first half of the jar is covered with our napkin, I twist the jar around and I just leave that on top of the egg carton, and I'm just painting some more Mod Podge and then just lifting the napkin up and around the jar. And this technique really helped getting everything around the jar without having to worry about holding it or dropping anything. And so I really liked using this egg carton, and I've never done that before, but I think I'm going to leave an egg carton in my craft room from now on to use as an extra set of hands. Once we're done decoupaging the napkin to the jar, we just cut any of the excess napkin right off. Once I'm done cutting that napkin off, I'm just going to use a paintbrush with some more Mod Podge and just kind of tap that down just to make sure everything is sealed nice. To remove the excess napkin around the bottom of the jar, I just carefully tore the napkin off around the bottom. And then again, I used my paintbrush with the Mod Podge on it and just tap down anything that might have pulled up. Once everything is dry, we're going to go ahead and do a nice coat of Mod Podge around the whole entire jar. If you're still watching, please hit that like button below. I set this to air dry, and it did take about an hour for it to dry completely. While that is drying, we're going to grab that pickle jar lid. And what I did was I grabbed a pickle jar lid, a square bead from the Dollar Tree from a previous craft that I didn't use all of them for, and just a little, I want to say it's a button, but it's not a button, it's a hook or something that came off of a shirt, and I had saved it in a jar with the random buttons, and I just glued that all together to make a cute little lid. And then we're just going to grab that gold spray paint again and spray paint over the top of this. And this did take 3 coats of spray paint. And while that is drying, we can grab out some of this fun burlap ribbon that I got from the Dollar Tree. And this was the one with the cute little loops going around. And I grabbed my egg carton again just to help. And we're just going to hot glue that around the bottom. But I'm just hot gluing it underneath where the lid would screw on, so that way you could still screw the lid on, but it gave a nice finish to the Mod Podge and made it look just a little more polished. And here's the final product. I love how this turned out. You would never guess that this was a pickle jar. Now we're on to craft number 3. For this craft, we used a box from inside of a light bulb box. And I liked this box because 1, it was white and I'm not going to have to paint this cardboard white. And 2, it was really thin. It was like a thin cardboard that you would find like on a Cheez-Its box or maybe a box of cereal. So if you don't have a box like this, you can just use one of those and paint it white. Next, I took a lid and I went ahead and I traced some of circles all around the bottom of this box. And I'm just going to cut out all of these fun circles. Now I'm going to take 2 of these circles and place them on a paintable surface. Next, I grabbed some napkins that I had from my decoupaging stash, and I keep halves of napkins and things, pieces that are still usable for another project. So I'm just going to reuse these napkins for this project. And we're just going to paint a thin layer of Mod Podge on the top of these circles. And I'm gonna take these napkins and cut out the bee because I'd like these to have the bee on the front of these circles. So I'm just gonna place that right over the top and just tap that down with my handy dandy saran wrap. And if you notice, I didn't cut an exact circle on the napkin. I just cut a piece of the napkin and let some of that overhang. And we're just gonna let that dry like that while we do the other circle. And we're doing the same thing on this circle. We're gonna cut out one of the bees and place that right on top of the circle, and then we'll use our saran wrap and just tap that down. So once both of these items have dried, we're gonna grab our zip sander or just a sanding block, and we're going to sand off the remainder of the napkin. And while I'm sanding in a downward motion, and it seems that the napkin falls just right off of the piece of cardboard doing it that way. And now we're gonna flip our cardboard pieces over and do the exact same thing on the opposite side. One thing to note is that I made sure that my bees were going in the same direction. So when I flipped over the cardboard, I made sure that they would match when I looked at either side of the cardboard piece. Now, once all of that is dried, I'm taking a hole punch and I'm just punching a hole at the top of the bees. For this next step, we're going to use triple thick. And this is a fun product. I'm not sure if you guys have used this before or not, but it is a sealer that you can put on top of items that makes it glossy and gives it a little bit of a harder finish. The only downside to this is it does take about 24 hours for it to dry. So it dries to the touch sooner than that, but it takes a little bit longer. You wouldn't want to do another coat until it's been 24 hours. Or you wouldn't want to use it somewhere until it's been 24 hours. And since I want to coat both sides of these bees, I have to wait 24 hours for the next coat, and then I'll flip it over and I'll use the triple thick again and paint the second side. Now that everything is dried, I grabbed 2 eye pins, 4 jump rings, and 2 earring hangers. And then I found 2 beads that I liked for each one of my earrings. And I put together some fun bee earrings. Here are a few more earrings that I made with other napkins. Thank you for joining us today for our Trash to Treasure journey. Please remember, craft more and stress less.